Right, well, here we are, 9 o'clock. Are you ready to kickstart your career? Today, my name is John Gilead, and I'll go through some introductory slides shortly. But I just wanted to very briefly introduce our speakers today. We've got Cathy Thomas from CoreNet Global. Cathy, give us a wave. Bottom left, we've got James Chris from Cushman & Wakefield. And Cheryl Proudlock from Mastercard, and our last speaker today will be Suzan Dixon from Standard Chartered Bank. Right, I'm going to start the slides, start the presentation, go through some introductory ones to begin with. So you should see now, everybody, that there's the are you ready to kickstart your career slide. My name, as I said, is John Gilead. Probably most of you know that for about 10 years I was with CoreNet Global, looking after the MCR program and the just at the beginning of the QPCR. But luckily for me, when I retired from CoreNet, my good colleague and good friend Cathy Thomas, that I worked with for many years, she stepped in, and she's now the face of CoreNet Global in EMEA region, and I think now internationally, but she'll probably tell us more about that herself later. Now, as I said, those are our speakers for today. There are some of the upcoming events for the local chapter. To spot the deliberate mistake in that link, you young leaders, you've got your networking event tomorrow. You're down at the bottom, near the bottom of the schedule there. But anyway, let's go through them. On the 22nd of April, we've got Occupier Insights. The 12th of May, Flexible Working. And that's followed up the following week by a second session on flexible working. And then a wrap-up session on the 2nd of June. You'll be receiving text messages and emails from the chapter telling you how to register for those events. As I say, tomorrow we have the Young Leaders Networking event. I'm just flagging you for the Young Leaders Summer Charity event. The date yet to be set. But as you can see, the chapter's trying to keep ourselves very busy. I'd like to thank our sponsors today. These are people who helped to fund the chapter, and without them, quite frankly, we couldn't really offer webinars as we are doing today. We've got IWG, Savills, the Office Group, and TP Bennett. And as I say, really great thanks to those people for stepping up and helping with the chapter. Right, well, look, that's me to finish now for the moment. I'm going to hand over to Cathy, who will take us through and introduce the MCR and the QPCR program. So Cathy, all with you.
Okay, thank you, John. I think just before we start the session, John, if I'm correct, we're encouraging questions at the end, I think you said.
I did. We're going to use the chat facility for that. And rather than take those questions to each speaker individually, let's leave that to the end of the in the sessions that we're going to give to you, and then I'll take those questions and go through them. If we don't have time to answer all the questions, then we will make a summary, and I will send those out to you by a separate email. And I think I should also point out that the presentation that Cathy is going to give you today, I'll also send that out to you as a follow-up after today's session. Thanks for the reminder there, Cathy.
Okay, thanks, John. So good morning, everyone. And this is a great opportunity, actually, for me to talk a little bit about CoreNet Global's professional development. It really is quite an informal session. So whilst there's quite a bit of material on the slides, I'm just going to capture the main points. We had a little bit of a laugh before we started this session. John and I are, as we say, old colleagues, and I'm even an esteemed colleague of John, which is lovely to hear. But I'm delighted to be here this morning with James, Cheryl and Suzan. I know James, Cheryl and Suzan through working in the professional development department with CoreNet Global now for quite some time. And so really my presentation, if you like, is going to be informal, but it's really going to be facts that I'm providing to you. And I think the beauty of this morning is that you're actually going to hear from James, Cheryl and Suzan, because they are the individuals that support our learning programme, A, by being faculty and B, by actually going through the programme. So you're going to hear some of the real life stories from our people that have gone through the programme. So that's an exciting part of this morning. So to start off, CoreNet Global offers two specific learning programs. We offer the QPCR. The QPCR is Qualified Professional of Corporate Real Estate, and we offer the MCR program. Now, the QPCR was launched about 3 years ago and is fairly new. The MCR program has been running now. It really is regarded as a signature program for CoreNet Global. It's been running now for a very, very long time. I feel like I've been saying 30 years for the past 10 years. So certainly CoreNet Global review the content of our MCR and update it on a regular basis. And lately we've been very challenged to look at that for our in-person seminars. But it has been running for a very long time. So just to give you a brief overview of the QPCR, that is designed for those that are new to the corporate real estate profession and for those who've got 5 or less years experience within corporate real estate. It really is foundational learning. And prior to moving on to the MCR, many of our candidates will start with the QPCR first. Now, I do think it's important to say that if you are, you've got 3 years or 4 years experience in corporate real estate, please don't feel that you have to start with the QPCR program. It is foundational learning. I would encourage you to look at it and to see if there's benefits within what we're offering for where you're at within your career. But my key message here is, if you feel that the MCR program is where you want to start because you have got hands-on experience in certain areas of corporate real estate, then you could begin your learning program with the MCR. So the QPCR, the beauty of that is that it's a virtual self-paced program. The format of that is that you would be attending everything online, either through on-demand sessions so that you can dip in and out of those sessions at your own pace, or you would actually attend a live webinar. In order to attain the QPCR designation, you would require to get, it's now 70 hours of credit over a 2-year period. Now, you would register for the QPCR program and make your selection of what is on offer. There are essentially 2 buckets of offerings, and that is corporate real estate knowledge and business and leadership skills. And within those 2 areas, you can make a selection of sessions that you wish to attend and attain that 70 hours in order to attain the certification. The good thing about the QPCR program is, from having purchased that, excuse me, and even after you attain the 70 hours in order to get your certification, you still have access to the content for a full 2 years from the date of purchase. So you can dip in and out at your leisure. You can check out what's available, what live webinars are coming up, and you are very welcome to register for those, even although you've already attained the QPCR certificate. So I think that's a nice element of the QPCR program, that the content is there for you for 2 years. One of the highlights, I guess, on this slide is that at the moment, the QPCR is being offered at a 50% discount. So it would normally be $999 for a member, but that's now down to $499. So it is a very, very good, I don't want to say bargain, but it's a very good price that CoreNet Global is offering at the moment. We're identifying it as pandemic pricing, but it is definitely something to think about. So MCR seminars. MCR seminars, obviously at the moment, while we're challenged with COVID, we have reacted to that very positively, and CoreNet Global is now delivering our MCR program online. That obviously, I think online learning is definitely a way of the future. And even when we're able to go back to in-person seminars, CoreNet Global will continue to offer a blend of in-person and virtual learning. Now, in person, I think personally for me, having been working with professional development with CoreNet now for a very long time, and getting to attend seminars and be there in the classroom or classroom office, call it what you will, with our faculty and with our candidates is just terrific. It's absolutely terrific. And I think, in terms of the value you get from an in-person seminar is quite different in terms of a online learning, but online learning means that you haven't got travel expenses, you haven't got hotel expenses, and it might just be the way that you go. So talking about our MCR program, we use interactive team-based approach to solve problems. So really the MCR, you'll be in a seminar with your peers. There'll be case scenarios, you'll go into breakout sessions, you'll discuss how to approach challenges, you'll hear how challenges have been solved by your colleagues in different companies. So the reason I'm mentioning this is because a lot of the value that people get from the MCR program is really listening to those real life scenarios and the real life solutions that have been adopted to meet these challenges. So that is a massive part of what you get out of attending an MCR seminar with your peers. Also, obviously, we talked a little bit about applying best practices and practical approaches to your current work. We've said that you solve problems in small groups, and the valuable networking friendship, that truly is a very good statement and very true statement in that, I've introduced people, colleagues and peers and candidates to each other, and they have remained friends for a very, very long time. So I think that's a very valuable piece of doing the MCR program, whether it's in person or virtual. So what does the MCR program consist of? Well, there are various seminars that are on offer through CoreNet Global, but the actual MCR program consists of some mandatory seminars and elective seminars, or otherwise called professional development seminars. Within the MCR program, if you were to start on that, you would have 5 years from the first seminar you take to the last seminar you take to complete the designation. Now, really, it's unlikely that most candidates will take 5 years. The average time for going through your MCR program in person is about 2.5 to 3 years. Some people fast track themselves through the program, so they look for opportunities, they're able to travel, they can see seminars that are outside their region. And as an MCR candidate, i.e. you're somebody who's decided to go through the program, you're not restricted to taking seminars within your own region. If you're doing a travel to the States or a travel to Singapore, for example, and there's a seminar there, you are very welcome to attend that seminar. So the seminars that you would do as part of the as part of the MCR program, the mandatory seminars are corporate real estate finance, real estate's impact on financial statements, and enterprise alignment. Now, what CoreNet Global is doing at the moment is that workplace strategies essentials is now being considered as a mandatory seminar within that MCR schedule. Then there would be another elective seminar. At the moment, we're delivering data-driven performance improvement, so that you have done 3 or 4 required and then your data-driven performance improvement seminar. Then after that, you would do the 3-day capstone seminar. Now, the capstone seminar is a culmination of the previous learning that you've done, and you wouldn't do the capstone seminar until it was your 6th seminar within the program. You can see the fees there, €733 for a 2-day seminar in the EMEA region. The full course, if you were to embark on the full course, the fee for that would be €5,136. That said, CoreNet Global is offering is offering a virtual package program, in that we are offering the entire program within a period of 18 months. We're doing that in various regions globally. We've been doing it in India now very successfully since about 2011. We're currently running a group program in the EMEA region, and that started actually in February. We're repeating the first seminar again this month in May. And if you decided you wish to embark on the MCR program and register for the entire program up front, there is a 20% discount. So that's just something to consider. Now, candidates might decide that they want to specialise in workplace, and CoreNet does offer MCR.W designation, which essentially is MCR workplace specialisation. On completion of the MCR programme, in order to attain the .W, you would do 2 further seminars, and those would be workplace strategy methodologies and workplace strategy in practice, and they would be done in that order. You might be going through the MCR programme and you know that you want to do the .W, and you see an opportunity to take these 2 seminars, strategy methodologies and strategy in practice, before the capstone. You can do that as long as you have done workplace strategy essentials, because that is 3 seminars that should be done in that order. They follow on from each other. So again, if you see a seminar, you know you want to do .W designation and not just the MCR designation, you can do that while doing the MCR, as long as you've done workplace strategy essentials. Again, this information will be shared with you. You can come to me directly or through our learning email, but I can certainly respond one-on-one with anybody who has questions on that. So I did just touch on briefly before I finish that we are offering a virtual 18-month accelerated program. All the seminars are online, as I mentioned, guaranteed completion within 15 to 18 months. And again, relationship building with group colleagues for a lifetime of networking. It is different from the in-person, but it's definitely working. We've got experience here of virtual delivery that I'm sure James will talk about when he's speaking. But virtual delivery works for a lot of people. And as I say, going forward, CoreNet Global will continue to deliver a blend of virtual and in-person seminars when we're able to go back to that. So I hope that's been informative for you. As I say, I'm more than happy to hear from anybody one-on-one, and of course there'll be questions at the end. But these are the 2 contacts, the website and then the learning, that you would email if you have any questions. So I hope that's been helpful. Thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you, Cathy. That was great. And as you say, we'll send out a copy of your slides to the participants at the end of this session. I'm just going to turn the slides off now so we can come back to block out for the speakers. Right, well, look, as we progress today, what I'm going to do is we're going to listen to the stories behind a couple of graduates from the program, Cheryl Proudlock from on the QPCR and Suzan Dixon from the MCR, and then we'll go on to James Crisp, who's one of our faculty. It's meant to be quite an informal session, so what I'm going to do today is just to ask some questions of our speakers and just let them respond in their own words. As I say, if you've got questions, put them down in the chat, and as I say, at the end of the session, we'll come to those. So, Cheryl, welcome, and thanks for joining us today. I know you're busy.
Hi, thanks for having me.
That's not a problem. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of your role at Mastercard, and also how you got involved in corporate real estate as a profession.
Sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Cheryl Proudlock. I am part of the real estate services team at Mastercard. My role is helping to look after the European portfolio, so I'm part of a team that looks after that. I've been with Mastercard for just shy of 6 years now. In terms of how I got involved in corporate real estate, the honest answer is very much by accident. So I've got a really varied background, almost everything apart from corporate real estate that you can imagine. At one point, that led me to a general office admin, office manager type role in an IT service management company. It was that size organization where, yes, there was a portfolio to manage. I think at the biggest, it was 5 offices around the UK, but it was nobody's job to look after. So it kind of fell to me by default, along with a few other things as well. So it turned out to be a part of the job that I really enjoyed. And eventually, through contacts within that organisation, led to my role at Mastercard today.
Right. And how did you get involved with CoreNet Global? Is that something that just came about by happenstance too?
Yeah, so it all kind of stemmed from a conversation with my line manager. So she was already a member of CoreNet, and I believe at the time was going through the MCR herself. So we were having a conversation about professional development, what I might look to do to sort of formalise the work that I was doing. I think we both recognised that the MCR should be part of my future planning, maybe in the medium term, but it didn't feel like quite the right fit at that point for where I was in my career. So we reached out to Cathy and sort of asked if CoreNet had anything. And I think you guys were just about to launch the QPCR. We were probably about a month shy of it going live. So I registered as a member for CoreNet, put the date in the diary, and Cathy, keep me honest here, but I think I was one of the first people to sign up. So as part of the beta testing group.
All right. So you decided to study the QPCR as part of your professional development,
Yeah.
I guess. Well, can you just tell us a little bit more about the QPCR and your experience with it?
Yeah, so overall, it was really positive. As Cathy said, as soon as you sign up, you get access to a lot of content. There's quite a nice split between faculty-led seminars and sort of self-led modules as well. So to a certain extent, you're in control of your own destiny in terms of how much time you want to commit in any one given week, in kind of the areas that you want to focus on, and there's quite a bit of flexibility built in. Yeah, I think overall it was genuinely really, really positive, particularly because, as I've said with my background, a lot of my experience, the vast majority of my experience is just within Mastercard. So getting a broader view of the industry was really helpful in that as well.
Right. Were there any particular modules that stood out from your perspective, something that you, for example, were able to take back to work and think, well, I now know more about this particular topic than I did before, and I can apply it in my role at Mastercard?
Yeah. So the module that kind of stands out to me, and I think it's probably because it was the first one that I did, was Core Fundamentals. It's probably one of the most comprehensive parts of the QPCR. So it is quite detailed and one of the longer ones. But it gives quite a nice snapshot of corporate real estate, so it's not focusing in on any one specific thing. And as Cathy said as well, there's a lot of general business skills that are not specific to corporate real estate. So things like resilience, resolving conflict at work that are transferable. And those particular ones were just sort of half an hour quick online sessions that kind of stuck with me. They were quite insightful and useful to work through as well.
Yeah. What sort of commitment did you have to make in terms of study time? I mean, was this something you could, well, again, how much time did you apply to your QPCR?
So I think it took me about 18 months to complete. It varied week on week. I think if you were to average it out, maybe 1 or 2 hours a week. But like I say, if you're doing a faculty-led seminar, that may be sort of 4 or 6 hours split across a couple of days at specific times. So the impact on that particular week is perhaps bigger. But if, like me, you complete that and then decide, right, I'm going to have a couple of weeks off and just not do anything for a little while and sort of come back to it, you can do that. Like I say, there's opportunities to sign up to specific days and times, but also to chip away at those hours you need to do in your own time as well.
have you had an opportunity to recommend the QPCR to, let's say, colleagues at work or to people within your networking group or to those people who are listening to this webinar today? Would you recommend the QPCR?
Yeah, I would recommend it. Like I say, for where I was in my career, I needed something foundational. It was a really positive experience, and yeah, I have been asked internally by a couple of colleagues whether I would recommend it and what my experience was. And I think they've gone on to register and are working through it now. So, yeah, absolutely, I would.
Well, look, I think we'll move on from there. But Cheryl, thank you very much for giving us that little insight into your studying of the QPCR. We're going to keep this webinar quite tight to finish at 10 o'clock. So I'll move on to Suzan now. Suzan Dixon from Standard Chartered Bank. Suzan and I have known each other for many years now, but I think I first met you when you were studying your MCR. And I've invited you today to come along to just let us know a little bit about how you, well, what are you currently doing at Standard Chartered? That'd be a good introduction. And then maybe how you chose corporate real estate as a profession.
Sure. Thank you, John. Thank you for having me here. It's really a privilege to be talking about the MCR. So I work for Standard Chartered Bank. I am the regional head of workplace for Europe and Americas. How I got into the profession was quite interesting. Back in the days, around 2004 time, I worked for a company which NASDAQ, but I used to, like Cheryl, I was running office management. And oddly enough, I had the option to either go into HR or managing buildings, so facilities management. I chose facility management. I just seemed like, okay, employee relations, I'm not dealing with that, But then I chose facility management. I did a master's in facility management. And from there, I've just continued my career within corporate real estate. 2 years ago, I joined Standard Chartered Bank. And very fortunately, Standard Chartered Bank, within Standard Chartered Bank, CoreNet is very widely recognized. So I had the opportunity right from the start. I was like, the whole bit where we have both MCR and QPCR qualified individuals throughout our portfolio. So literally right at the start of my career at SCB, I was convinced that this is what I wanted to do. And I was fortunately supported 100% by my then manager. So I just naturally joined the program.
Okay. So your introduction to the association, to CoreNet Global, was through the company, basically.
Yes.
Right. Well, look, can you tell us a little bit about your experience about studying the MCR? I mean, you similar to Cheryl, you gave yourself sufficient motivation to embark on this journey of getting the MCR qualification. But just tell us a little bit about that journey.
So, again, it's a bit different what I anticipated it to be and what it ended up. It is extremely positive, no doubt. But when I took on the program, I've completed it in just under 18 months. So I was quite fortunate to be able to do that because, like Cathy said, it can take maximum 5 years. But with a very busy job and everything that's happening within the world of SEB, I still managed to do that. And I think having it, so at the start, I was really doing the in-person sessions. So I even had the opportunity to travel to Florida because it's within my region, and I attended 2 sessions out there. But then the pandemic struck, and I then switched to doing it online. So it was 2 different experiences. Both were amazing. I think the latter was more like figuring stuff out because through the pandemic, we went through virtual and all different platforms. But still, I think the whole bit on the networking, making friends, understanding obviously the program was quite the experience. And I think the thing about the MCR that I appreciate most, it gives you a good understanding to build your strategy, run financial analysis, and really get a seat at the table with senior stakeholders in making your case. And in fact, now more than ever, with the corporate real estate being right at the forefront in making that difference within the business world. So I think MCR really, really helped me get that confidence to make a case.
Right. You mentioned there the financial part to it. I mean, I've always been strongly aware that within the program, the MCR program, 2 of the required modules have got a finance background to them. Did you find those challenging?
I mean, I
Most
am
do,
a
by the
commerce
way. Most
graduate.
do.
Yeah, I was like, okay, it's been a long time. I've not looked at this, so it was challenging, but it was really, really useful. It's kind of brought back memories of what I need to do to make a case, and I think I found that very, very useful to have the in-person session for that, because you brainstorm with the group and really get to your answers. So that was really very beneficial.
Yes, there were always the 2, CRE finance and real estate's impact on financial statements, were always my 2 favorites when I was helping to manage those, simply because most of the people who studied those 2 modules, were only vaguely aware of
Correct.
these things. And I used to say to them, look, it's so that when you do talk to the finance team, you just don't sound like an idiot, or at least you understand the terms that they're using.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look. So you're on the program. How long did it take you to study? Did you say? I guess 18 months was it? You said.
Yes, just under 18 months. So I did have the benefit of attending in-person sessions, but towards the end I completed it or fast-tracked it, as Cathy said, because it was available online too.
Right. Well, I'm interested also as well. I'm just following up on this one. You took a couple of modules in Florida, so you had a US team over there. Did you? Those were in person, I guess. Did you have any other in-person ones, say in the UK? And if you did, could you contrast them?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I did have them in the UK too. So, in fact, that's the 2 locations that I've done my sessions. I think the contrast being in the US, what I did experience was some of the elements, and it was good for me because then I'm talking about real estate. I think it was the lease analysis, for example. IFRS 16 is what we have in Europe. Again, is different for the US. So it was good to understand that portfolio, which I was really used to. Even though I manage Europe and Americas, I was more used to Europe. And so it was a good understanding to see what it meant, for the other portfolio.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point you're bringing out there, because, again, a lot of corporate real estate professionals don't just deal with real estate and companies who are based in one country. They're often global these days, as Standard Chartered are, for example. So that's a good point. Well, look, you've recently joined CoreNet Global as faculty, and I know that James is going to talk about that in more detail later, but do you have any sort of experiences you could relate on that? You've done a couple of the QPCR classes, which are virtual, and I think you recently did one of the MCR classes, or you're going to do one of the MCR classes shortly. I can't quite remember now. Maybe you could just give us a little bit of your sort of feeling about the role of faculty and how different it is from being an attendee at one of the seminars.
Sure, John. I mean, I've done both the QPCR and the MCR, and it's been really the workplace fundamentals and the workplace strategy sessions. Again, a great experience. It's more, I mean, I joined the group after being convinced by Cathy, and she didn't have to convince me a lot because it was really good fun. So it was my effort in giving back. I had the privilege to learn from others and get to where I am today in my career, and it's sharing that learning that influenced me to join the faculty group. But in terms of really, why I say it's fun, because you really get to know what others are experiencing, and you can relate to it and give your experience of what how you manage a certain situation. So it's getting a broader understanding. So it's not about you just teaching; you understand stuff too. So I found it really, really very beneficial.
All right. Well, look, I love the term "giving something back," because I think that's very important, and it's certainly something that is part of the ethos of CoreNet Global, giving something back to the profession. Well, look, I'm going to move on now to our next speaker and our last one for today, James Crisp from Cushman & Wakefield. James, of course, is I can't remember exactly when you were president of the UK chapter. It can't be that long ago, James, but
hundreds of years ago, John.
Well, I always say when you become an immediate past president, that's time to move on in anything you're doing. But certainly I would, without becoming overly political, that's what I would ascribe to Donald Trump in the US. He's now the immediate past president, so move on. First of all, thank you for joining me today, James. And I'd like to perhaps you could just let us know what you're currently doing at Cushman & Wakefield. And also that question I've asked of Suzan and Cheryl, how did you become involved in corporate real estate as a profession?
Okay. So, good morning, everyone. So what I currently do at Cushman & Wakefield, I work in our global occupier services business. So we're responsible for delivering advice and services exclusively to our occupier clients, principally through integrated facilities management or integrated portfolio management. And I'm responsible for running a number of accounts and a number of teams, which I think also has the relevance to some of the things that Cheryl and Suzanne have already spoken to, and why also I have an interest actually in the whole kind of learning side of what the what the CoreNet does, as well as the chapter. Your second question, John, how did I get involved? And it's interesting, on panels like this one, we all compare how we got involved in these things. So I'll confess, I probably now actually have just over 25 years experience working in real estate. And I started in the mid 90s. I was probably doing like a lot of people at the time, working just generally in the property industry. I was working on, with investors, with occupiers. But what I found was that the work with the occupiers was just a lot more interesting and rewarding and challenging. I liked the link to, more business management on that side of things, and those other skills and way that one has to look at things and do work for occupiers. So I could see that, and in as I say, in the sort of mid to late 90s, and that's also about the time, and I forget when CoreNet and previous organisations merged, and CoreNet sort of was born as it was today. But it was about the time that a lot of kind of groups and people came together around corporate real estate, and I think corporate real estate started to really take off, and actually then you could join and work in that sort of area exclusively. So that's a bit like others, I suppose. In a way, I came into it by accident, but I was working in the profession and could see, and was fortunate at the time where corporate real estate really was starting to be recognised as a profession itself, and that was really quite an exciting time.
Right, so I suppose that's how you got involved with CoreNet Global as well, because of this coming together, as it were, of the need for occupiers and service providers to better understand, I think, each other's roles and what they needed.
Exactly.
So, how did you get involved with the MCR program and the QPCR programs? Was that again by happenstance, or was it something you went positively looking to do?
So I first got involved when the QPCR started out, and I was, as you say, I was involved with the UK chapter at the time, and sort of was aware of that QPCR program, and in fact, just looking at my own experience, and then those that worked in our own firm and around us, I could really see a need for something like the QPCR. That foundational, almost introductory gateway into the profession, because you can't go and do a regular university degree or other course on corporate real estate, probably for good reason. So I was more than happy to go and volunteer to support the QPCR as a volunteer faculty, and that's sort of really where I started out, just teaching a couple of the modules on the QPCR. That gave me a bit of experience. I'd never done anything like that before, so it was a good challenge. And I did that for a number of years. Number of the sessions that we ran, we did it in person. We actually also did it virtually, as I remember, before we had to do things virtually, which was also an interesting experience. And then I suppose you might say things sort of graduated, John, from there. We must have done okay in the feedback forms at the end, which is always the nervous thing if you're facilitating something, because that's the real proof in the pudding, as they say. But and then sort of graduated on there into becoming co-faculty and then leading faculty on MCRs.
All right. Well, look, it seems an interesting journey you've taken, and I do remember being, excuse me, one of those who sort of encouraged you to participate. Certainly in the, I think it was the introduction to corporate real estate module that we have. Yes. Excuse me, I think I've got a frog in my throat there. Well, what would you think about if you were would you encourage other people to follow the route that you've taken by teaching and presenting as faculty member? Or I'll pose another question to you. Let's say I'm as one of your younger colleagues at Cushman & Wakefield. And I came to you and said, well, look, I'm interested in doing let's say some studies in corporate real estate. How would you encourage them to go about it? What would they need to know specifically to sign up, as it were?
Well, I think my first starting point, and it's a good question, and actually something that we're often asked, particularly by people who maybe are sort of slightly outside of the corporate real estate world, if I can put it that way, who want to sort of learn more and perhaps use that as a pathway for their career. So I always would start and encourage people to look at the QPCR first as that foundational learning, and to get that all round viewpoint. I'm interested to see what Cheryl and Suzan maybe have to say on that, because one of the things that attracted me personally back in the day into corporate real estate was actually it is a huge scope of an industry. There are lots of different channels and specialisms you can take, which I think for a lot of people, and certainly for myself, I find actually very, very interesting and part of the excitement, because there's always change and something new, and lots of different opportunities. But at the same time, if you're looking into the industry or starting out, that could be a bit daunting. So I'd always say to people to start and look at the QPCR as getting that good kind of foundational base.
All right. And what about someone who might want to volunteer as a faculty member? Have you had any of your colleagues stepping up to? There's quite a few of the people from Cushman & Wakefield have been faculty in the past. I do know that, but as you know, I mean, you always need faculty, and maybe to just to touch on for people on the call, guessing they might be sort of contemplating thinking about MCRs. I think one of the really important things that we do is make sure that there's quite an interesting and diverse faculty, for delegates, so that you've got people from different parts of the industry with different experiences. Because as you and Suzanne were talking about, John, it's actually being faculty. Firstly, my relief when I first did it was realizing it's not teaching, because I'm not sure I'm a good teacher. It's about facilitating learning, which means helping get across the theory and the concepts, and then through those practical exercises, and the case study work and the group discussions, which is also where the facilitating and sharing knowledge and bringing people into the conversation comes in. So firstly, I'd say it's not teaching, it's facilitating. Secondly, same as Suzanne, you've got to have a passion, you've got to have a cause to do it, whether it's giving something back, challenging yourself, learning something new. And I would say finally, actually on that point, I always learn something when I do any of these courses. Always. I mean, you obviously get to meet great people who are passionate about the future of industry, which is great as well. But you always learn something. You just never stop learning. Right. I remember one of the faculty I worked with extensively. He said every seminar he was faculty member for, he learned something from that particular group, and it was one of the reasons he constantly came back to volunteer. Yeah. Well, look, that leads us to the conclusion of our sort of formal presentations here. I've just looked at the chat feature, and I've realized that nobody's actually sent us any questions, which is surprising. So if anybody out there would like to just jot down a question. If not, we've had 45 minutes of an introduction to the MCR. I would encourage all of you in the QPCR, I encourage each of you. Oh yeah, huge advocate of the program. Yeah, the question I've got from Lisa, if I sort of extrapolate from that, and it's something that James, you and I discussed in the last MCR program, last MCR faculty, let's get this right, MCR seminar you presented, you were intrigued in that you had an audience or a participants from around the world. Maybe you could just say a little bit about that and how the impact on the seminar itself.
Yeah, so it's an interesting point, and I think it's just interesting for delegates, definitely. Which is the experience was that we had, because it was virtual, we quite literally had somebody in China, we had 1 or 2 people from Middle East, from Dubai, we had a handful of folks from EMEA, and then we had some people from the US, including actually one lady who was in Hawaii. So we literally had in this cohort doing this MCR module people from all around the world, which when you link back to one of the ways that the learning programs work through that sharing experiences and the group work and bringing those discussions, as Suzanne was talking about, all of a sudden you've got really quite a rich and broad pool of real great knowledge and viewpoints there, and I think it just made it a really very interesting and good very good good faculty.
Right. And Suzanne, when you were faculty on the QPCR program and the MCR, did you have a similar experience?
Yes, John. I mean, exactly what James said, and I think it's that bit where gaining an understanding of different, not just countries, it's different portfolios, different problems or challenges people are facing. But I think what's also a great outcome is you literally make friends for life, because the networking opportunity that CoreNet gives, it's a global opportunity. So even like if I'm struggling with something in the US and I don't have anybody to tap into internally, I know I can connect with my CoreNet colleagues globally, in America or whatever. So I think it's really that exposure, which is quite a breadth.
And Cheryl, I mean, obviously you've just taken the one MCR at the moment, but did you find that, because I think you were part of that enterprise alignment group that James was faculty on.
Yeah, I was part of that group, and I completely agree with you, James. I think you had such a broad range of perspectives, and like you say, with everyone being spread across the globe, it was a really interesting group. And I think what I hadn't anticipated as part of doing the QPCR was that it was a really good foundation for CoreNet and understanding how the content is delivered, how the content is assessed. So whilst of course all the content's different, going through that first MCR seminar felt quite familiar in a really good way. So yeah, something I hadn't anticipated at the start, but fingers crossed continues as I go through the rest of the MCR.
Yeah. I see James has put in a question that Cathy, you might be able to answer. How do you pitch to your line manager that you want to study the MCR or the QPCR program? There's naturally fees attached to these programs. So how would you do that?
Okay, thank you, John. Yeah, you're right. There are fees attached, and some people might think the fees could be quite heavy, but one way I think that you would put it to your line manager is exactly what James was saying and what Suzanne was saying, is about the value that you actually get with not just your learning, but the interaction with people that are experiencing the same problems in the industry and in their companies. And the MCR is so well regarded now that I even hear that some employers are suggesting that any potential candidates for employment do actually have the MCR designation. So, CoreNet Global can certainly help with giving you some verbiage for business case for actually going through the program. But I think it does speak for itself. There are a vast amount of testimonials to what the MCR program has done for individuals' careers. So I think it's about looking at the program, identifying the value that you think you're going to get from it, and then explaining what you feel you can then bring back to the business as a result of having gained that knowledge. Right.
Well, look, I think we've had a good and thorough discussion on the CoreNet Global's programs. It's this session has been recorded, and so it'll be on our chapter website for anybody who wants to have a relook at it, or to recommend their colleagues at work to log on and have a look. I'd like to finish today by thanking our speakers. Cathy, great working with you again. James, it's always a pleasure to interact with you. Cheryl, we met for the first time for this webinar, and it's lovely to meet you. And it's only a shame I didn't get to see either your cat or your dog, but you thought we might make an appearance.
There's still time, you never know.
And Suzan, as I say, it's always a pleasure to work with you as well. So I'm going to finish off by just thanking again the UK chapter's sponsors. That's IWG, the Office Group, TP Bennett, and Savills. And look forward to seeing everyone again in the near future. Anyway, that I will close out today's session. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.